Cache-a-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome back to another installment of the GeoGearHeads. This week we're talking, just between the two of us, about geocachers and how they can use DropBox in their caching activity. Next week we'll be talking about the Android caching app Neon Geo. Then for the last show of the year, we're going to be talking about Earth caching with ClickCheck again, but this time a little bit broader sense than what we had before, and we'll talk about that a little bit more next week. We also have some feedback that came in since the last episode, so we'll kick off this show with that feedback. First, the Bad Cap, why don't you let everyone know again how they can send us their feedback, including topics they'd like us to discuss on the show?
Why, of course, Daryl. We'd love to get some feedback on the items that we've talked about in the previous episodes, and like Daryl said, topics for upcoming shows. So send that to us through social media like Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and the best ways are still by voicemail at area code 206-350-3647. Now, we'd love to get those comments in your own voice. And you can also email them to us at geogearheads@cacheamaniacs.com. So, off we go, Daryl. Am I still going?
You are still going,
okay.
But I was wondering where you were going with that.
I kind of went off because I jumped ahead. Most emails, though, are like this one from Darkman2371 via email, he wrote. I've been listening to GeoGearHeads episode 49, and I heard the question as to if GSAC supported multiple cache displays on a map. The answer is yes. The macro, which can be downloaded from GSAC, is the Google Map v3. What this does is open Google Maps and put all the currently shown or selected caches on the map. It shows a cache icon on the map, and if you hover over the icon tip tool, it will pop up and show the cache name. If you click on the icon, you can get a pop-up showing the cache number, name, difficulty, and terrain. Also, the cache number is a hyperlink to the cache page, the cache listing page for that cache. I personally use this for my cache routing planning. I'm going to try that again. I personally use this for my cache route planning. For example, there is a series of canal caches in Coventry. You can list them by distance, but due to the twists and turns the canal makes, you don't necessarily get them in the right order. So I use this to plan the caches in the right order for the canal walk. Digging a little further, I found that by running the macro with the Shift key held down gives you a choice of options. This allows you the addition of the cache name and the number and a number of other options on the map. Also, using the core GSAC functionality, you can print a condensed HTML list of the selected geocaches. So, possibly using these two methods may get you near the required result. I hope this helps.
Yeah, he sent along a couple of PDFs, and I did look through those, and this really would be a great solution for something like an event booklet, but it is still going to be multiple pages, and I wonder if that's going to fit the bill, because I get the impression that really what they're looking for is something that's a nice single sheet that they can take in like one of the map carriers or laminate or something like that, just so that they have something they can take that's a little bit more rugged and waterproof, but not necessarily with all the detail that this provides. So this is a great solution for like the event booklet, but not necessarily something that you'd really want to go hiking with.
Right, and it sounds very similar to what we do on a cache machine, where we'll have up to 10 pages. It'll show a local area map and the caches on there and a route to them, and give you details in the directions. Now, as promised on last episode, episode 49, I played around with Microsoft Map Point North America 2011 this week. If you remember, Urban Geo53 from southwestern Ohio asked, can you print a map with the listings of the names and locations to have in hand while caching in the field? So what I did is I imported a GPX file and was able to show the detailed information of each cache on the map. It's a little unwieldy, but it's possible. Each entry had a large square box of information somewhere near it, most of the time above it, but not necessarily. I suppose if you had a few caches spread around the map, it could work out for you.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different options. GSAC, I think, is probably the one that's closer to what they're looking for, but again, I don't really know because I'm not sure what their actual application is.
Right. So, one of these may work for you. If there's any other ideas, please send them along in a voicemail, an email, social media, and we'll get those out to you as well.
Hey, Kevin S. here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Heard the podcast a week or two ago on had West Virginia Tim talking about gadget caches, and I think they're great. I think they'd really help the sport improve spread. So I got in touch with him about getting some plans from him, and thought maybe he could have a spotlight on, a regular spotlight on one of the geocaching podcasts. There's several of them, and maybe he could do a YouTube channel about how to make caches and things that he does to make his gadget caches. And he got back with me, and he had said that he was actually starting a YouTube channel called Gadget Caches. So I think he emailed me today, and he said he was filming his first one today. So give you guys a heads up about a brand new Gadget Cache on YouTube. You guys can subscribe and maybe get some ideas from him about build some cool caches. Thanks.
Well, thank you. That will be very good, and I think the YouTube video route is the way for him to go. Just because when we're dealing with these audio shows, it's really tough to get the message across when you're showing something like building a cache container.
Exactly. What a great idea, YouTube video channel dedicated just to building gadget caches. I can't tell you the number of times I look on YouTube almost every day to find out how to do something. It's my default go-to anymore on DIY projects.
Yeah, and there's a ton of good information up there. So anyone who is looking for some ideas for caches, just do some YouTube searches and you'll find some great instructional videos, sometimes just even great videos about some awesome hides out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next is, and this is also going to be our last feedback for this show, an email from No Name Yet 202 again, and he says, as far as tracking multiple trackables, this was mentioned in Podcaster episode 393, and I've played around with it. It could be very useful for TB races, and it's geotribes.geotastic.com. And I've also taken a quick look at it. It doesn't really seem to do what I wanted it to be able to do for races, where you could actually flag, this trackable from this owner, multiple owners. It really does seem, from what I've been able to find just in my quick look, like it's only for your trackables. So it is definitely a nice resource for those with a lot of trackables, including myself, but not really what I was looking for as far as the TB games would go.
Mm-hmm. That may be an option. Now, it would really be nice if we could say, okay, we're going to have a travel bug race, and instead of launching one, you can use anyone anywhere in the world and enter it into the race and use a website such as this or one with a little more functionality to be able to track the movement of that particular travel bug.
Yeah, exactly. And what I'm thinking is all of the different organizations that do their own TB race kind of deals, where you're earning points on various topics too. So in order for it to be really useful, you'd have to do something like, it's X number of points every time it's checked into a cache. Give the option for setting that, maybe setting the time in motion versus versus time idle, that kind of stuff. It'd really take a lot of work, I think, to get something that would be really cool and useful going. But even just some basic functionality where you could pick a bunch of different trackables, whether they're yours or someone else's, and have that displayed in a link from the trackable page, so that you could put something that says, hey, I'm part of, the 2012, GeoGearHeads trackable race. Find out my status here, click that link, and it takes you to a public page that gives you the summary of what the current status is. That would be really cool. And even cooler yet, really, would be some kind of image link that would just give you a quick summary so that you can embed that on the trackables page so people could see, hey, I need the help getting here, and it would update it as needed. So you could have a, this race is expired, move it as you like kind of warning or something like that.
That would be cool. But, we'll have to wait for somebody to build us something like that.
Yeah, indeed.
And maybe we can start a 2013 GeoGearHeads trackable race.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we need to get some folks to sponsor prizes and do some kind of GeoGearHeads travelers.
There you go.
Well, let's move into our actual topic for this evening, which is Dropbox and how cachers can use it to make their caching activities better and easier. But I don't know if everyone knows what Dropbox is, and some of these things aren't going to be exclusive to Dropbox, but Dropbox is one of the more common, better known solutions out there, and has so many ways to access it where some of the other options won't have the desktop sync, or they don't have the apps or something like that. But in general, Dropbox is a cloud storage solution so that you can put your files into the cloud, just a remote server, and pull those back down. But its real advantage is the extra stuff that it has with that. Badcap, what are some of those options?
Well, if we look at just options for Dropbox, we're looking at mobile apps, so Android, BlackBerry, Kindle Fire, iOS. We have desktop, that's Linux, Mac, and Windows. So all those will sync. You could drop a file from your iOS device and get it on your laptop, or vice versa. It has an API for app support. There's I don't know how many, let's say hundreds of apps that integrate with Dropbox. Now, you can get a free Dropbox account that'll give you 2 gigabytes of online storage that you can connect from any number of devices. For instance, I have one that I use personally, that I use at work and home and on all my devices in between. So I have all those files with me at any time.
One of the great things about the way that the desktop sync works, and why this is so critical for a lot of users, including myself, is I have Dropbox on my machines at home and on my laptops, and it's saving that to your local hard drive on those machines, but it also does the sync across to those other computers and to the cloud. So I can have a file there on my machine, so even if I'm not on a network, I can still access it. But it's also, as soon as I get back on a network, synced to the cloud and automatically dropped onto those other computers. So I always have a good copy on all of my computers, and I can access it from any of my tablets or smartphones.
Right, and that's the real key, and I think the real success to Dropbox is the fact that it has the files locally. So when you sync, those files are copied to your local machine, as you said. You can do whatever you want, and when you get back into Wi-Fi range or back wherever you may be, they upload to the cloud and are synced across all your other devices again.
And they also have the web version so that you can log in from any computer that has an internet connection, grab whatever files you want, and you can also do some sharing that way. You can't really host a podcast that way, but some people have done so. But yeah, it's a great way to get your files anywhere you want, anytime you want, and pretty much any way that you want.
Now, we haven't talked much about sharing. Sharing is, for me, the real selling point of Dropbox. There are other apps, other services like Box.net, Microsoft SkyDrive, and that don't do the sharing as well as Dropbox. With
Well, that's the
go
thing
ahead.
is that Dropbox really is the one package that seems to have all of this together and does it well.
Mhm.
It is a little bit more expensive. It's free up to 2 gigabytes, and you can actually get additional storage space for free by doing referrals and that kind of thing. But they do have pro memberships that starting at 100 gigs, which is like $10 a month or $100 a year, and it goes up from there too. So you can get more storage, but it is going to be a little bit more for those pro apps than some other alternatives like Google Drive.
Exactly.
But this is a way that the Bad Cop and I actually do our shows, is we actually record the files locally, put them in that Dropbox, we share a directory and get the files that way, but we also have our show notes there, we have our support files, things like the graphics, the title slides that we use during the GeoGearHeads recording, and it's all there. We can all get to it, we can all do whatever we want, and it really does make it easy to do all of this kind of stuff.
Exactly. And Daryl, you and I have shared a folder on our Dropbox account. I have, I don't know, a dozen different folders that I share out with different people for different things. Geocaching, I have one that I share with the home computer for pictures and that. But you and I have shared, and once that happens, I can access any file in that folder that is your Dropbox account.
Indeed, and this is really the way that a lot of people are using this, and why this topic came up is because we had a comment in one of the previous shows about syncing the GSAC databases using Dropbox. So let's actually go to a comment from No Name Yet 202, again via email, and he said, "Hey guys, I'm currently using Dropbox to sync my GSAC databases between my work laptop, my home computer, and several Linux computers running GSAC via Wine. Here's what I found. First, I only sync my databases, not settings. This is done by going to Tools, Options, then under the Database folder, putting my Dropbox folder /GSAC. I keep the application data to default. This is done because I use different usernames per computer, and changing the application data to Dropbox will cause all sorts of confusion by GSAC. Trust me. I also tried using Google Drive for this function, mainly because the storage is cheaper with them. However, this does cause issues. Dropbox doesn't touch the files that are currently in use by other programs, but Google Drive will, which causes GSAC to crash occasionally. That's never a good thing.
No.
And occasionally I experienced it around once a day and sometimes more. Third, as much as I'd like to, I do not download pictures for the caches. I don't have a paid Dropbox account, and downloading images associated with my database would cause Dropbox to become overfull in no time. Just a few things I've learned."
Yeah. And, it's not too difficult to get a 2 gigabyte GSAC database. So
No.
I can see that happening.
Well, and the great thing is once you do sign up, you can get additional space, but still if for free by getting your friends to sign up for it. And again, like we mentioned, it's really great if you're going to do GSAC for like an event or something, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, to actually in an event where you're actually doing multiple people, you could create that shared folder where you put the GSAC file and have multiple people do it. So if you're doing the referrals, well, you're going to get more space too. So that's a great way to get more space and not pay much more. But again, it's only, I think that it tops out as 5 gigs of free is your maximum that you can get. So if you've got a big
somewhere around there,
that's not going to work very well.
No. Now, one thing to consider is you can get multiple accounts. They don't frown on that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good reasons for doing such. For one for work, one for your personal use, and maybe you have one for your church or your geocaching group.
Right. If you're going to do an event, why not go create a brand new Dropbox account? Put all the information in there, share it out. When you're done with it, you can just close it or let it slowly fade away.
So yeah, this is a great way, like No Name Yet 202 actually mentioned, to keep your database in sync across those multiple computers. And I think you did such a good job there of talking about that. We don't really need to go into it too much more. So why don't we move on to the way that I actually like to use it, and how many geocachers got into it when they got their smartphones, and that is to get the GPXs, the pocket queries, straight from geocaching.com.
Right.
Even before they had the web page where you could just go and click and download, people got those emails and would actually have automated scripts to copy it into the Dropbox folder so they could go and grab it from their smartphones. So on Android, all you have to do is launch the app and navigate to the file, open the file, and select the app. Now, if it's a zip file, the apps that I have on my tablet that will recognize the zip files are CGO, CacheSense, and Locus. Actually, I should say it's not recognize the zip files, but register with Android that they're able to open the zip files. So those three, when you do that, will open the zip files. Neon Geo, which is on there, and a couple of the others didn't register that they take zip files, so it doesn't work. Now, GPX, the only app that I had that would load up the GPX file is Locus. So that's what you have to go through, and just right there you can tell that it's probably best to zip up those files before you drop them into Dropbox.
Right. Well, or you can have them sent that way from geocaching.com.
Oh, absolutely.
Choose to have them zipped and then drop the zip file into Dropbox.
Right, but if you're looking to do an export of your GPX file from another app and want to put it on the Dropbox so that you can share it, and we'll talk about how you can actually use that to share with groups in a little bit, but you'll probably want to zip that up so that it is compatible with more apps. Plus, by zipping it up, you're taking a big text file, because that's all a GPX is a text file.
Exactly. And
making it a smaller one, so it's going to transfer faster and take up less of that space on the Dropbox account.
Yeah. Now, in iOS, you do very much the same thing. Launch the app and navigate to the file and open. Once the file's been opened, tap the icon, the curved arrow into a bin or out of a bin in the lower right-hand area, and select the app, such as for zip, you've got GeoBucket, GeoSphere, looking for cache. And with the raw GPX file, you got looking for cache, GeoBucket, iGeocacher, and GeoSphere.
Yeah, and again, those are the ones that I've tested, and it works great. I've done this for all kinds of stuff, particularly for the events. And the way that I like to use this for events, I typically actually just do a different route for events, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But when we're trying to share caches either for group caching or for events, you have the option of grabbing a share link from Dropbox that's then a public URL, so all you have to do is send that or text that to someone, and they can actually download it right there. So you don't have to send it via email. You don't have to go and send a ton of emails out. It is not a short URL. It's going to be a long URL, but you could take that share link, run it through something like Bitly,
exactly,
and call it, My Event 2012, and just Bitly or / My Event 2012, and just post that somewhere. So anyone who wants to load up their Android, their iPhone, their iPad, just go here, download it, and you can load it into any of those apps that support it.
Exactly. And, we're not limited just to GPX files or zip files. You could do web pages. You can do, in fact, as we mentioned earlier, full GSAC databases if you're looking for that. PDF files for maps, what have you.
Exactly, and that's a great thing to do for the events, is create that PDF file, from printing via GSAC, or if you're just printing out the pages from the web page that you've created on geocaching.com.
Mm-hmm.
Give that to people so that they'll have a paperless form of your cache booklet, or of your route file, or of your map. If you've gone and done a nice little map for them,
Mm-hmm.
they can use that. If the geocaching.com app doesn't support any external files, you have to upload to geocaching.com first and then download it, which is a real pain and doesn't work at all for caches that aren't published yet. So this is a good workaround for those who don't have one of the compatible apps, or for those who are caching with their GPS and just want that paperless option on the device. PDFs are nice, easy ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave that open on your device, be it an iPad, iPhone, Android tablet, whatever, and reference it as you're going about.
Yeah. Now, I did promise that I was going to mention before we move on to event planning that what I've usually done for the geocaching events is queue up emails in my Gmail account from home, where I have a nice, good connection. I'll just go into my Gmail account, create a bunch of drafts that has the basic text that I've created. Here's the files, blah, blah, blah. I'll upload the GPX files and the zip files, and usually a PDF as well, to that draft, and create like 20 or 30 of those. So when we get to an event, all I have to do is go into those drafts, type in the recipient's email address, hit send, and it's done. It's already in the cloud, so it makes it really quick and easy to do at the events. Now, the problem is if you have 50 people and you've only done 20 of these, it gets a little bit more complex, but you can do some forward tricks and stuff like that afterward to get around it. But yeah, that's been the best way I've found to do it at events, because that gives everyone all the files and it's right there. I still like giving the option for the download links, but to make things simple for the events, we've just gone with the email route usually, because it does make it a little bit less confusing to most of the smartphone users.
Well, Daryl, that's a great idea. I never even considered that. Again, the sharing a public folder in Dropbox, okay, considered that, but I didn't consider making 20 draft emails just to be able to pop out. And really, when you think about it, you can do it kind of like multi-level marketing. You get a couple of people you send those drafts to, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends.
Indeed, yeah.
And you can offload a lot of that work.
Yeah, we've had a few people who have their geocaching email account through Gmail or Yahoo that they share across the family's phones, the team phones. So it's one email that sends it to all of them, and they all get it. So that's a great way to go, too.
Nice.
Now, we're going to wrap up our discussion tonight on Dropbox with ways to use this for event planning. And really, the best thing to do is do that shared directory that we talked about with the way that we work. You just have that directory, you share that directory among the email addresses that you've selected. So it's not public, it's still private, and it syncs to all of their computers if they have the Dropbox app installed. So by doing that, you can have individual GPX files, you can have Word docs, whatever you want to do for your event planning right in there. Now, of course, we prefer generally to use Google Docs for most of the planning, because it is multiple people editing the same doc at the same time, and you can get it up and talk about it easier. But for the GPX files, this is a great way to go. And one of the best things we've seen people do with this is they'll go and create that folder for everyone to use, create subfolders and for each of the cachers, and say, okay, once you've listed your cache on GC, gotten it ready, not actually submitted it for approval, but gotten it posted, you can click on that download GPX, save that to your directory, and when time comes, we'll just go and grab all of those individual GPXs, load them into our central GSAC file, and you create that central GSAC file for everyone to get access to, and prep and everything else. And once you're done, you can also get the share link for that final version of the unpublished caches to send out to the smartphones, send it out to people so that the night before they can download it and have the computers ready that they're going to load all of those other GPSs or whatnot with. But better yet, if they're taking their laptop that they normally use, it's already there. They don't have to do anything. that as long as their laptop was on and syncing the night before, and you've got the file on there, and you can just load that up and load it onto all those GPSs that are waiting in line to be loaded.
It's a great idea. Now, we don't. I want to go into a little more granular explanation of sharing. You can share a folder, or you can share just an individual file. And those links will create, you can create a Dropbox link for just that one file you want to share if you want a little more security in your Dropbox folder.
Yeah, and the folders, I believe now, if you have a new account, the folders cannot be shared publicly anymore. They used to be able to share publicly, but they made some changes, and I don't think that's possible anymore. But you can share the directory with specific people, and that's really what we're talking about for doing the event planning.
Right.
But the individual files, you can do the share link, and that will take you to that particular file with a public link so that anyone can go and grab that file.
Exactly. Now, I know with a brand new account, there's no longer a public folder. On yours and mine, we have a public folder that whole folder is automatically shared.
Right.
Whatever we drop in there is automatically shared to the public. That's not true on new accounts.
Right. And that is a great feature, but they were saying at Dropbox when they deprecated the feature that that's not what most people were doing, and then they gave us the feature to share an individual file from anywhere in your Dropbox account, and that really, I think, is a lot more useful for most people, myself included. But it was nice to have just at one central place where you could drop all of your public links that you wanted, files that you wanted to do for public consumption. But most people don't really want to work that way, especially if it's something like photos from a family event that you just want to make available to anyone in the family without giving them a Dropbox account. That is not the way to go. So it is a lot better the way that they have it set up now.
Yeah, I've done just that. I've put full pictures in there to share to family, but taken them out when I know they've got them, so I can move that along. And you're right, that's not the way to do it. So I like the new way.
Yeah, same here. So we'll keep hoping for lots more improvements to Dropbox, and they've picked up a couple more companies now to actually, one in specific has gotten a lot of attention recently to help improve the service, and they're doing a lot with photos, and we really could get into a lot more ways to use this for a lot more different types of applications, including just taking all of your photos from a caching trip and uploading them. So we'd love to hear what you, our listeners, are using Dropbox for. Send us an email, a voicemail, let us know through Google+, and we'll share that with the rest of the community. But we also have a couple more shows coming up that we'd like feedback and questions. Next week we have that Neon Geo episode, and the week after that we're getting back to Earth caches.
So check the Cacheamaniacs website at cacheamaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We'd love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads at cacheamaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cacheamaniac shows coming. Please consider making a PayPal donation through the link on our website to support the Cacheamaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show's copyright 2012 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cache with a Cacheamaniac.